Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to another edition of Danny and Stan's Football Weekend right here at the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. And the Chiefs were off this week, so it was NFL football for all, for people who wanted to just watch a game and not stress out, or maybe you just did some chores or listened to games on the radio or whatever. But we will dive into the NFL on multiple levels, including the impact of Sunday on the Kansas City Chiefs, what the bye week can mean for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a whole lot more as far as NFL topics are concerned. And the college football weekend, well, we've had some weekends this year where it wasn't a mixed bag, where all the teams lost. Well, that wasn't the case on Saturday. There was a win, a loss, and, the kind of a moral victory that Kansas fans can sink their teeth into. And for this time around against Iowa State, there was some reality in the fact that that was a moral victory. Lots of pro football, lots of college football, lots of fun as we head towards Thanksgiving. Stan Weber's on the road in Florida for Kansas State basketball, but we can still catch up with him via the phone line, which we will do next right here on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. It's time again for Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, of course, as I just said, and Stan joins us now. He is on the road. He is on the road in a nice place. Now, we've got pretty good weather in Kansas City today. It's going to be 60 degrees, but I bet you got me beat, Stan.
Well, I do. Looking out over the water and everything being green and beautiful and wearing shorts outside today, it's a lot different than what I ran into Friday night. Or Friday afternoon, Danny, when I went from Kansas City to Manhattan, there was a snowstorm. The roads were slick. There was an inch of snow on the ground in Manhattan only. It was crazy. I was going full speed along I-70 from Kansas City past Topeka, and right before I got to Bill Snyder Highway, there was snow. I couldn't believe it. So, yes, this is very nice being in Florida.
And you were there for K-State basketball. We'll talk about K-State football coming up in a little bit. But let's talk a little pro football now. And yesterday in the NFL, Chiefs fans got to watch other teams at play. And one thing that we saw is a continuing trend, Stan, and we've talked about it on this podcast, the ability of NFL defenses to step up. Now, I was listening actually to the entire game between the Saints and the Panthers, and that was a high-scoring game. But there were a lot of games around the league yesterday where not much was going on offensively.
It's amazing. The level of excellence that we're seeing in certain spots just blows my mind because it still is an offensive game. The coaches really think about maximizing things on offense, yet you turn on that 49ers-Packers game, and Aaron Rodgers looks like he's a freshman quarterback backup in a college game. Like, oh, well, darn, too bad their quarterback's hurt. They don't have much chance today. It was amazing how San Francisco's defense just dominated. And the New England Patriots, week after week after week, we just keep saying, oh, they have such an easy schedule. This isn't really a good team. It's just an easy schedule. Well, man, I don't know. They're still NFL teams, and these teams don't even think about getting touchdowns against New England. It's amazing. They just stifled the Dallas Cowboys, and yes, that can happen. But the Cowboys were the number one offense in the NFL. They've been moving the ball up and down the field. Dak Prescott is having a big time right now, and they can hardly get a first down. And getting field goals, they felt very fortunate. So what is it? New England's playing at a level that the Ravens played at when they won the Super Bowl not that long ago, and then another time when they won the Super Bowl back in the day when Ray Lewis was at his prime, his record-breaking level. 1985 Bears is the defense.
Broncos, maybe?
Yeah, and here they are playing at that level. And we're seeing pockets of it here and there in the NFL. But the 49ers and the New England Patriots yesterday just gave us a big dose of defensive football. Danny, we're at a great time in football where we see diversity in games. It's no big deal if we see a 42-40 NFL game, and now we're also seeing some 13-10 football games. Same teams. I guess we may be at one of the greatest points in football history that kind of diversity is there. And every time you kick off, you're not sure what you're going to get. It's the broadest range. Well, back in the day, it was going to be 21-17, and then we started getting used to every game being 38-35. Now we're getting a lot of diversity. It's amazing to see that there are some formulas to slow down these offenses. We talked about the college run on College Football Game Day on Sports Radio 810 Saturday, but the pro versions are done way more differently. You do it sometimes with just amazing pass rush and ability to control the line of scrimmage physically. Maybe lock down, play man-to-man, like the Patriots are just acting like, let's just tell every receiver, you're going to have to worry about one guy, that defender in front of you, and, oh, by the way, you're not going to get by him. So how are you going to run your passing game when we can stuff the run with extra people? We can blitz. The Patriots basically blitz a guy every down to make all your linemen work and find the weakest link to get to the quarterback, and they're doing it because their secondary is locked down. Deion Sanders was the lockdown cornerback of all time, and we used to joke about him, Danny, back in the day, as saying he'll take half the field. Like he'll take the best receiver and he'll roll the safeties to the other side. The Patriots are doing that on steroids. They're not only doing it with one guy, they're doing it with multiple. They're doing 2 or 3 cornerbacks and saying, we got these guys. Now let's play football against the rest of them any way we want to. It's been a great formula for the Patriots.
You obviously are a Cowboys fan, but you're a Cowboys fan who has been not happy with the way they've been managed over the years. And Jerry Jones said it after the game. He said, with the makeup of this team, I shouldn't be this frustrated right now. Most football experts think that the Cowboys roster is among the best, yet there they are with a team that's barely over 500 that couldn't score a touchdown yesterday.
Yeah, and they haven't beaten anybody that's any but good. They've won the games against teams that have poor records, and they've lost against anybody who's very good, excluding their division games. They're doing an Andy Reid type of style right now. The last 2 years, they won the division last year, and they might win the division again this year just by dominating their division foes. They've been beating the Eagles, and they're going to have to beat them one more time. Either the Eagles or the Cowboys are going to the playoffs. But it's very good if you're a Cowboys fan, Danny, to hear Jerry Jones speak this way. He's been very reasonable in my mind. Most people would think very aggressive as an owner, but he does a press conference after every game. He has his own radio show. Stephen Jones, his son, who's the general manager as well, does a radio show. And the problem with the Cowboys being managed poorly is because of Jerry Jones and his family. won't let the guys do their job. You know, I've been saying that for years. Oh, that's decades now since Jimmy Johnson has left, and Bill Parcells, you know, he took over and ran the football program, but Jerry didn't like that. He wanted to run it, so he gets a puppet for a coach like in Jason Garrett. But right now, what I love what Jerry's saying is he's finally calling it the way it is. They're not that well coached. They're not awful, but they have no toughness, no discipline. And to watch New England yesterday with really no offense, bad weather, spank them in a low-scoring game and outcoach them at every step of the way was embarrassing. And even Jerry realized that. The most embarrassing is even Troy Aikman. You know, these national announcers, they don't put their necks very far out on the line. I mean, they give you some good information. It's fun to listen to. I'm not blasting the guys like Troy Aikman, but they don't often say stuff that's too over the line because they keep doing these teams over and over. They're part of the NFL. They get along with everybody. But when Troy Aikman said, that's just bad coaching, I don't know if you saw it, Danny, but the Patriots are kicking into a strong wind with rain, and the ball's been dropping about the 15 or 20-yard line all game long, okay? It's not strategy. He couldn't kick it all the way to the end zone. And in a late-game situation, the Cowboys' kick return was standing on the goal line. Guess where the ball was going to hit, Danny? Do you have any idea? It hits the 15 or 20 every time. So where do you think it hit this time? The 15 to 20. And so he's racing up from the goal line, can't get there, and misses it, and it goes past him. And he's lucky to go back and dive on the ball back at the 10 without fumbling. When he should have caught it at the 15, took it out to the 35, had great field position. Cowboys, the wind at their back. All those things. The Cowboys don't do any of the little things right, Danny. They're not tough. They don't make big plays when it counts. They're the exact opposite of the Patriots. So it was the best game in the world. I'm glad Jerry was there. I'm glad he finally realized that the roster doesn't matter if you don't coach them up, okay? And that's the same thing with the Chiefs. I know we focus on the Chiefs a lot. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the league, Danny, and that makes a big difference to how good Patrick Mahomes looks, Tyreek Hill, all these things that we take for granted as dominant or good. By the way, it's coaching that puts them in that situation. With the wrong coach, we wouldn't even know Tyreek Hill is as dominant of feature in an offense as there is in the NFL. I'm telling you, it's not because Tyreek's fast that he's good. It's because Tyreek's fast and put in situations by Andy Reid to dominate.
Let's talk about the Raiders yesterday. We saw a low-scoring game by the Raiders and a high-scoring game by the opponent against the Jets. First of all, I want to ask you an overarching question, which is the fact that odds makers look at it, football fans have grown to look at it now, that West Coast teams playing noon games on the East Coast really just don't perform that well in general. It's kind of understandable, I guess. It's 9 o'clock West Coast time when the game starts. As somebody who watches football, knows the heartbeat of a football program, the way football players operate, is there really something to that?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. That's one of them you want to throw up there. It's not as far as what you call a theorem. You know, it's a given, but it's definitely probable. If you would have talked to me on a pregame show on Sunday morning like we do on Saturday mornings, Danny, I would have told you I thought the Jets were going to beat the Raiders. I really felt it. Now, it sounds easy today, and they beat the heck out of them, but Darnold's playing better. The Jets are a little bit of an upswing, but the factor you said is as big as any of them. We weren't going to see the best of the Raiders having to go to the East Coast. They're not a dominant team, and this has been true forever. When the Raiders were a dominant team, when the Raiders for a while had the best all-time record in football history. Do you know that, Danny? From the time they turned to be an NFL team, in 1960, they became a team, and in 1970 they became an NFL team. They were tracking as the best record overall in regular season games in the NFL for a long time. That's Al Davis. That's the dominant Raiders. They still, in this situation, going to a poor team on the East Coast, would struggle and even maybe have a little less than a 50% chance of winning. So I'm not surprised at all that the Raiders lost. So what does that mean to us? Okay, here's a couple of theorems that are true. Not theorems, but here are a couple of statements that are true, Danny, that can be thought of today and not quite as much as in the old days, but still are true. West Coast teams playing at noon Central Time on the East Coast don't perform very well. Teams who play on Monday night have trouble firing back up and playing as well on the next Sunday, especially, if they were on the road on Monday night and had to get home in the middle of the night, basically blowing Tuesday up. That's one. And then my latest one is you've heard me talking about that Thursday night football is something you better take with a grain of salt, that it's not real football. Doesn't mean you don't count the wins and you're bummed when your team loses, but they don't play normal football on Thursdays anymore. For some reason, the players just don't get fired up. They kind of just work their way through without emotion. So don't overreact to Chiefs dominating Denver. Yeah, they won, but don't overreact to the domination. And here, I don't think we should overreact to the Raiders getting whipped by the Jets. We'll see a much better version of the Raiders, Danny, so just erase that tape. I wouldn't even show it to the team if I'm Andy Reid. I would just tell them a few things strategically, like watch this play, here's a new tendency they have, but I wouldn't want the Chiefs thinking that that's normal. I would say this is not the Raiders team you're going to get. They're going to be fired up to try to make up for last week. NFL players do that. This is a division game. They'll play better. But all of that said, and I'm making the Raiders sound better, like, oh, watch out, here come the Raiders. Here's the core fact. The AFC West teams are not nearly as good as the Chiefs, okay? The game the Chiefs needed to be worried about was the Chargers in Mexico, okay? Chargers in Mexico, as you and I talked about on the podcast, if the Chargers would have found a way to beat the Chiefs, that might have helped the Raiders, who have a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way, get some stuff done. But the Chargers didn't damage the Chiefs, and the Raiders aren't good enough. So I'm not worried about this Sunday. Yeah, it's the NFL. It could be close. The Raiders will give a better performance. They're not nearly as bad as they were on the East Coast against the Jets, but they're still not in the same league as the Chiefs. Chiefs win division games. Chiefs are at home. Chiefs are the better team. So I never was too worried about this Raiders game ever. Maybe yesterday gives you a little more confidence that the Raiders aren't for real. But on any given day, if they don't throw interceptions, and if Carr gets into a rhythm, Danny, and they start running the ball well, the Raiders can be hard to beat. I mean, the Raiders can drive the ball for 6 minutes. Let's say they have a 6-minute drive and a 7-minute drive in the game that result in touchdowns. Just that statement right there. If they were to do something like that, the game's going to be fairly close because they've taken so many minutes off the clock, and I said touchdowns, not field goals. But the problem is, are the Raiders really good enough to do that? Probably not. I think the Chiefs are going to win the division. I think the Chiefs are in very good shape. The game that scared me was the Charger game, and they got that victory.
Let me talk about the Chiefs situation here. I was just thinking about this, obviously, before we did this. The Chiefs have a bye. It comes at a good time after a long stretch of football. They have some guys banged up. But I think, in my mind anyway, they kind of I'm glad this is a big game against the Raiders. If this was a game against a lesser opponent, I'd be worried about the Chiefs coming flat because they have the bye. Yeah, that will refresh you, but then they come back on Thanksgiving week, and that screws up your practice routine. And if it was a lesser team, I would have been concerned about the Chiefs coming flat. I'm not now, but I think the bye week with Thanksgiving worked in isn't ideal. Am I off my rocker there?
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right, Danny, because you got a core amount of work you need to get done. And what's interesting is you don't want to do more than the core amount. You used to be in the old days, you got an extra week to prepare. Oh, my gosh, look how ready you're going to be. Well, that's when you had guys like Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Snyder, guys who want to know calculus instead of basic math. But nowadays, these teams don't want to know more than their normal amount. There's just a certain level of preparation that's the right amount. So the Chiefs can do this well. Thanksgiving takes a little bit away from having the right amount of preparation. Thursday night games, if you're playing on Thursday, hurts that right amount of preparation. But a week off can also be too much. Well, you said it well. They can actually relax a little bit on Thanksgiving Day, but have made up for it the week before. So it really is going to work out well. And even though Andy Reid's been so good after bye weeks, some of those theorems, some of those statements they're not going to stick forever. The Chiefs have, for instance, aren't a dominant team at home. Okay? Who would ever, it's hard to say that. I didn't a few seconds ago, I said, the Chiefs are at home. Like it meant something good. But really, it's not necessarily true. And either is having a bye week is going to be just perfect for the Chiefs. But I do think you mentioned it. When you put all this together, they're going to get enough preparation last week, a light week, obviously, mostly a week off. This week less than normal, but made up with the off week. They're going to have the perfect preparation. They have to win against the Raiders. It's the Chiefs-Raiders rivalry. when you watch the Raiders on tape, when you see when they do some of their best stuff, like running the football well with the rookie, passing the ball at times when Carr gets into a rhythm, and the Chiefs can watch tape and totally respect the Raiders and know they got a little bit of a battle on their hands to go win the division. I think that is a perfect psychology for the Chiefs to play well. And if we can see the Chiefs concentrate, play well, just take care of their own business, there are some chances for some good things to happen. Because while we watch a team like New England do everything right and coach so well, that is dead cinch going to win when you're playing teams like the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins, like for the Patriots. But I'm telling you, the New England matchup isn't perfect to try to play the Chiefs. So if you think you're going to stuff the Chiefs' offense, the Patriots just don't do that against the Chiefs. So even a very, very dominant defense is going to give up some points. And if you can't hurt the Chiefs with your offense, you're missing out on a big opportunity. And the Patriots don't look like a team that is going to hurt very many teams. So the Chiefs versus Patriots is not a bad matchup, Danny. Then you got the Ravens, who do you really want to count on Lamar Jackson doing it in the playoffs? Is that a great matchup? That Super Bowl, crazily, is still available for the Chiefs. Get to work this week, just beat the Raiders, get the cockiness out of the system. I think the fans, the players, and everyone ought to go through Thanksgiving to December and not talk about the Super Bowl. Don't talk about it, Danny. Just talk about winning your division. Talk about winning a playoff game. That's how you make the Super Bowl. You don't make the Super Bowl saying, we're going to be in the Super Bowl. And that's how the year started, right? So in a way, this could sequence out pretty well for the Chiefs. Now the question is, the Ravens have a tough schedule. Will the Chiefs put a little bit of a winning streak together? Ravens stub their toe a little bit, and the Chiefs could still be the number 2 seed. I do think that's valuable, Danny. I think the probabilities of winning the Super Bowl are tremendously better if you win your you get second seed. Okay, not because of the bye, that's helpful, but the fact that you don't have to play on the road like the Ravens and the Patriots. That's what you don't want to do, is play the Ravens and the Patriots. Play one or the other on the road, get a home game, and there is still a scenario in my mind, without a doubt, that the Chiefs could get to the Super Bowl. It's crazy. As inconsistently as they've played this year, battling injuries, it just doesn't seem like their year, but it's not over, Danny. Just get to work. Don't worry about the Super Bowl, and it might show up.
That's Pro Football with Stan Weber. He's down in Florida for Kansas State's college basketball tournament, and we will talk some college football coming up as an interesting Saturday. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between a little bit with Stan Weber. Coming up next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McCraeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next. Back with Stan Weber on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, and we're going to talk a little college football now. And let's start with the Kansas Jayhawks. You know, you grade the Kansas Jayhawks still on a curve, and I'm never going to give any team an A if they lose a game, but I'd say you'd have to give the Kansas Jayhawks a solid B. They had the lead in the fourth quarter. They scored some points. It was about as good as you can ask without springing a major upset, and it would be major. Kansas hasn't won on the road in 11 years in the Big 12, but a lot of good things for Kansas fans to absorb.
Yeah, in this game there definitely was, Danny, and maybe through the season with this kind of response at Iowa State, a tough place to play, we didn't give them much of a chance. Now the bad, before you get to the good for Kansas, is that means 2019's road schedule's over. So from 2010 to 2019, I guess you'd call it the decade of the teens, Kansas did not win a road game in conference in that decade.
Ooh.
You said 11 years, but it covered a whole decade. So
right.
Crazy bad, and wouldn't have been something if they would have won the last one before it all ended. They almost did. Danny, you know what I was looking for a couple of weeks ago to grade Kansas was not necessarily even on wins with the remaining part of their schedule after they got whipped by K-State. It was the offensive. You know, play modern football to a level that makes you a dangerous team, where you can come back from deficits, that you can hit some home run balls, you can show some athleticism. Those kind of things I think are very valuable. If you want to upset people and you want to win games to get to 6 wins and go to a bowl game, I don't think you do it with the New England Patriots strategy of sound defense. I think you've got to play great offense. And that was the thing we missed for a couple of weeks, and it came back. So I thought that was a great sign, Danny. You know, listening on Saturday, I did not think about Kansas performing well at Iowa State.
No, I sure didn't. Yeah, I sure didn't.
No, they're just a good team, and Iowa State's good on defense. You know, they play a unique style. They're good on defense. They usually keep things in front of them, so you don't get the plays over the top. Puka is always dangerous. Puka Williams running the ball, but, you know, they can demoralize you. And then on offense, you know, this important game for Iowa State, their last time at home in front of the fans. This is a team that has their head on straight. You know, I felt very good about Iowa State, and then Kansas didn't show us that they'd spark the offense back. So, heck, it was a great performance. And compared to what expectations were by you and me, for instance, it was off the charts. A+ wouldn't even be good enough to grade them, because I just didn't think they were going to have the lead in the fourth quarter and look like the better team for much of the day. I mean, it took Brock Purdy, and he's pretty good in stress situations, to make plays. And then Matt Campbell, I thought, made a bad decision in not taking a field goal up by 3 to go up by 6. Instead rolled the dice and went for fourth down, and he made it. Okay, a passing play, a broken down play, he made it. They win by 10. It looks like it's easy. But if he'd have missed that, Kansas could have tied with a field goal at the other end. You know, so things went very well for Iowa State at the end, but a good performance by Kansas, Danny, and it just makes us reshuffle the whole deck. What do we think about the Kansas team? You have to consider the Boston College win as a tremendous day. You got to look at the game at Texas, and now you got to look at this game at Iowa State, and you get that mixed bag of there's been bad days. There's been some of, who cares if it's Les Miles as coach, still some of the poor play by KU, but there have been hints that things may be turning around, and things are going well. So we had an arrow pointing down after the K-State game. It's been a straight arrow pointing down with not much of an angle, like straight down. And now, Danny, I don't know where that arrow is, but it definitely isn't straight down. And that's what Kansas needed at the end of the year. You know, I said you just don't want to have this season end in a devastating fashion that makes you think, here we go again. Turner, Charlie Weiss, David Beatty. You know, at some point things don't go well, and KU football doesn't react well to the next head coach. That was the fear for KU at the end of the season. And now Les Miles flipped that upside down and said, what are you talking about? We were just as good as Iowa State. We were just as good as Texas. We were better than Boston College. We're just a workout away, off-season workout away, and a few recruits away from being a part of the middle part of this conference. So let's see. I mean, there was a ton of positiveness after a few weeks of little positive. So, wow, I'm waiting for this last game because Baylor is a big-time team. But Danny, I'm going to tell you, they're going to the conference championship, and I'm not down on Baylor. I like a lot of things about them, but they're not that much different than the pack. Does that make sense? Oklahoma and Baylor are not that much better than that mid-pack of the Oklahoma States and K-States and Iowa States of the world, TCUs, Texas Techs. I can keep going on. West Virginia,
right.
Kansas. It's unbelievable. So don't be surprised if KU comes out with momentum and excitement and plays like crazy, and who knows what kind of Thanksgiving week Baylor's going to have. You think they might be looking at having a rematch to Oklahoma? Do you think there's a possibility that they aren't worried about Kansas? So I'm really interested to see. It's not going to be a blowout. This is the old days when a Nebraska team would come in and beat you 50-10. No, this game could be fun to watch, and if it is, I think KU can go to the off-season feeling good about itself.
I'm going to save Missouri because that's probably the most, sexy thing to talk about. Negative news sells newspapers and radio time and stuff like that. But another dose of good news from Kansas State, and what a stereotypical Kansas State win when they win in this fashion. Outgained significantly, key kickoff return for a touchdown when the momentum seemed to be swinging in Texas Tech's favor. The opponent probably thinks like they let one get away, which often is the case when Kansas State beats you. But another great win for the Cats. This is like the third or fourth time they've won this year when being significantly outgained. That used to happen with Bill Snyder, too. We always talked about the hidden yardage, and certainly there was hidden yardage in this one with the key kickoff return. Great victory for the Cats.
Oh, awesome victory. Man, 7 wins in a season where they're picked 9th and they had a transition in coaching. They didn't go to a bowl game last year. Are you kidding me, Danny? They beat Oklahoma, and with a better team on the field, they went to Mississippi State and won the game, and with a better team on the field. Are you kidding me? This is awesome. What an amazing season. But K-State needed a win to just verify that you could say those words. K-State was sitting after the Kansas game 6-3, thinking about the possibility, or 6-2 actually, thinking about the possibility of being Baylor and playing Oklahoma in a championship game. That didn't come to fruition, but we knew in the final 4 games that K-State needed to win their share. At least one, most likely 2 of the last 4, and anything above that would just be incredible icing on the cake type of situation. But since they lost their first 2, and man, those are close games they could have won. They definitely could have won at Texas. Could have won at home against West Virginia, probably gave that one away with a couple of really bad plays that you don't normally see. They needed to catch a break and win one of the games, and they did it, beating Texas Tech. Texas Tech now is 0-4, Danny, in games decided by 7 points or less. So this is a team that's not that bad. You can just go watch the tape, but they haven't been able to find a way to win close games. K-State's now 4-2 in games decided by 7 points or less. That's been a big difference maker for them. Baylor's been good in close games. But you said at special teams, how about this, Danny? 3 times this year, K-State has returned a kickoff for a touchdown, all of them on the road. Just amazing that they've been on the road. They've been in critical situations. They haven't been when you're already up 14 points and you put that 21-point lead up. They have been in situations where obviously the other team had something good happen and they wouldn't be kicking off, right?
Right.
You know that. Usually those scores are kind of damaging to the old gut. You're on the road. You shouldn't have momentum, and the kickoff return team says, watch this. And every coach is doing everything they can to get ready for K-State's kickoff return unit. I mean, they kick the ball anywhere and everywhere to not let them get a chance. Mostly they try to boot it out of the end zone if they have any wind at all. K-State only had only one kickoff return against Texas. In the whole game, they only got to bring one out of the end zone, Danny. 1 for 1, they housed it. Touchdown, okay? Against Texas Tech, they couldn't get a return. The first time they get a return, touchdown. 2 touchdowns in a row. How about that? And so it's amazing to watch them. The players in those special teams units obviously care a lot, work very hard, and even when the opponent's worried about them, still executes. But overall, Skylar Thompson's played great football all year long. Again, he has been a good, effective runner at times. How about Danny trying to run out the clock? With 3:58 left in the game, K-State got the football, and Tech had the momentum. You talked about how they've been moving the ball, especially in the second half. And here K-State was in their own territory, not in good field position. 3rd and more than 10. I think it's 3rd and 11. And Skylar Thompson ran a quarterback draw and got 17 yards. And K-State actually ran out the last 3:58. You know about the old 4-minute offense. That's what they did. They ran out the clock to win the ball game. And it kind of reminds you, there are 2 games this year that were really at critical points. Okay, the most critical point game of the year was TCU at home. Danny, TCU is so hard to beat. They're so well coached on the defensive side. Skylar Thompson ran a quarterback draw from inside his own 10-yard line for 61 yards. On a day that K-State could hardly move the ball against TCU, that play got him over the hump, and K-State beat TCU. At that point, they had lost 2 straight games. They were 3-2. That win over TCU led to a win over Oklahoma and Kansas. Now, here they are backed up again, in trouble, not as bad as against TCU, right? Texas Tech's not the Horned Frogs, but still, Texas Tech had a ton of momentum. Their field goal kicker is money. I mean, he's as good as anybody in the country, so you are going to give up a field goal likely against him. And there goes Skylar running the ball on a quarterback draw on 3rd and long again. So big plays by K-State. They need to win their fair share, Danny. They could have, any of the last 3 games, they deserve to win or lose. The odds are you're going to win 2 or 3 of them. They got 1, but because they lost the first 2 in a row, it was a must to go on the road and win. And I'll tell you something about Bill Snyder football, K-State football, and now Chris Kleiman football that is worth bragging about, Danny. And this, you grew up as a Dallas Cowboy fan, okay? Mm-hmm. You know a little bit about this. Back in the day, home teams won pro games, right? And home teams generally won games. Even the bad home teams, if they won their 4 or 5 a year, would probably be at home. And it was so tough to go on the road. But one of the great things about being a Dallas Cowboy fan, when Danny and I were young, man, that was a long time ago, was the Cowboys could go on the road and they would just play ball, right? I mean, it didn't matter if they were on the road. They would just compete and go out and win their fair share. And they didn't win maybe as many as they could have if the game were played at home, but still, it was so much fun to watch Cowboy games on Sundays and not go, oh, crap, it's a road game, very unlikely they're going to win. My whole life being a Cowboy fan, I knew the game was going to be competitive, okay? Danny, how much fun is it for me to travel with K-State and have the same experience? Okay, this is an extreme, but didn't we just talk about Kansas? 0 for the decade.
Right.
K-State just won their 3rd road game this year. 3rd road game this year, and they basically do it every time. Danny, I think it's the 4th time in the last 5 years K-State's won 3 road games in the season. That is an unbelievable compliment. As you mentioned how it isn't always easy. You might not gain as many yards as the other team. You might do it with hidden yards, and you don't get turnovers. You don't have penalties. You make special teams plays. Those don't come in a total yardage. But to have the guts, the fight, and the perseverance to go out and win tough road games. 3 road wins by Chris Kleiman this year continues a tradition that Bill Snyder started. And it is so much fun, Danny, because it doesn't matter to me if it's home, away, Japan, or a bowl game. I'm with the Cats every time. And I don't like showing up thinking, well, I guess we're going to lose because we're not in Manhattan. That's not cool. So I am the blessed person that when K-State goes on the road, just line it up, man. Doesn't matter if you have the white jerseys on or not. They're going to play. That's impressive. 3 wins on the road. You cannot understate how awesome that is.
Well, Missouri has kind of done the opposite in a bad way. They have had all kinds of trouble winning games on their home field, and it happened again on Saturday. It was a bad look on television. The crowd was announced at 47,000, and it sure didn't look like it. Empty seats all over the place, and I don't know, it was almost as if the television broadcasting crew dialed up the worst shots they could get so that they could see the empty seats all the time. And then the Tigers go out and lose, and they lose in a fashion that really hurts because their offense was a little bit better, maybe good enough to win, definitely good enough to win the way they'd been playing defense, but Tennessee just threw the ball all over the yard, beat them, and Barry Odom, undoubtedly to me, faces a must-win game against Arkansas. Now the good news is that Arkansas, it's hard to lose to them, but times are not good in Columbia.
No, and they are so much better than Arkansas, and they've been pounding them on Friday after Thanksgiving. They've made that game boring. I guess it's going to happen again, but there's a part of my brain, Danny, that's could Arkansas actually fight? Could Missouri just kind of come out and not play with emotion because they know they're going to win, and Arkansas fight, and you get one of those national TV games where Arkansas is going to play better because it's important to them and they don't want to embarrass themselves. And I don't know. I've been looking forward to that Tennessee-Missouri game for a long time. It was, if you're a neutral fan, very fun to watch, but there is way too much at stake if you're a Missouri Tiger fan for it to come out that way. I mean, if Missouri would have won by 1 point, you could have gone away and said, we did our job. We took care of business at home this year. It was just kind of a crazy year on the road, but at least we won a game on the road against Arkansas, and here we go. I mean, wouldn't it be great to be a part of a program that's bowl eligible, won 7 games, and everyone's down on you? I just got so excited about K-State winning 7 games. Missouri should be like, why shouldn't we be embarrassed by winning 7? Well, they didn't play anymore. They're not going to win 7. They lost to Tennessee, and there's a lot at stake in that game. One thing that I have to talk about, though, is the bowl game, the ESPN bowl games. They show a bowl game almost every night, Danny, 1 or 2, right?
Yep.
They are the best. There's a new philosophy in television. They are at the best. When a punt goes up in the air, boom, they do not follow the ball. You know what I'm thinking, Danny?
Yep.
When the ball goes up in the air, you see how many fans are in the stands, right? So I've been watching, and there's been a number of games where the ball's kicked, and they just stay right down at the players running down like they're really interested in special teams play, like, what's that blocking scheme? But the thing is they don't lift that camera above the bench level in the first 15 rows of the stands ever. They just totally stay on the field. It's great technique. It's not that easy to do as a producer, okay? But they've been doing that. So I didn't get to watch the game as closely as you did, Danny, because K-State was playing, so I didn't notice they better not follow the ball up here. They can do that. They can make the stands look better than they did. But Missouri's limping into the final part of the season. Will they get a reprieve? Will they beat Arkansas? NCAA come down and say, you got to go to a bowl game, get back excited, go play well. That's the only way Missouri can get any positives in the season, Danny. They need to be allowed to go to a bowl game, erase the thought of the season for a while, and then go play great in the bowl game. Mark that one off. Remember that Barry Odom's one black mark really has been until a season can't go win bowl games. Even when he's a favorite, he's dumped a couple the last 2 years. So there's still that hope, but are you really going to trust that the NCAA is going to make that decision on a timely basis and they get to go to a bowl? And if it doesn't happen, then we're going to whimper into tough decisions. You got to be careful, Danny. Don't overreact. You got a coach that's going to be successful someday. You better be careful with getting rid of them too soon. If they would have done that, if they would have overreacted, they would not have seen the best of Gary Pinkel. Think about it. And if you remember the heat that was on Gary Pinkel. It wasn't a sure thing that he was going to end up being a coach as long as he did. And if he would have been whacked early, people wouldn't have been mad at that time. But now we know we wouldn't have seen getting to the division championship and going to the championship games of the Big 12 and the SEC. So I personally can't sign off and say, man, Barry Odom's the right guy. But I can't sign off and say he's not the right guy for Missouri. I'm not sure. They got a tough decision.
Yes.
And the main thing is they got to keep their head and not do it on an emotional basis.
No question about that, Stan. That time of year where you're doing both things, enjoy wearing shorts outside and putting your feet in the water and all that good stuff, and enjoy some basketball too.
Yep, good week for basketball and football. Danny, have a great Thanksgiving, and all those listeners, we really appreciate it both on this podcast and on Sports Radio 810. It's a joy and an honor to work with Danny. And the fact that you will listen to us, I still can't believe it, but thank you for doing it.
That's a good note on Thanksgiving, to say the least. Good Thanksgiving wishes from Stan Weber on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend for this week.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.